Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andria Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going fine. I'm coming off the high of, Cincinnati is such a hot weekend, a week of, experiencing the Black Tech Week, the digital power that Cincinnati has in the Black community, the music festival, the Black Walk Hall of Fame. It really was an energizing Black weekend in Cincinnati, and I think it's fantastic. I think folks are still recovering from the last weekend because we were having a good time, and folks came out to see Snoop Dogg. So
Oh yeah, most definitely. And it's just hot in general, weather-wise. Like it's 90 today.
I know it's unfortunately that heat wave has been off way out west, and we've been fortunate. Unfortunately, now it's starting to heat up. In fact, when I got back to my apartment, I put my car in the garage because I didn't want it sitting out in the heat because I was like, it's already hot in the garage already. But I didn't want the sun bearing down on my car because it's like, ooh, it's gonna be hot. So
Yeah, most definitely. So Andrew, what's the chocolate news of the week?
well, we have a little bit of tragedy and a little bit of history. But first off, I wanted to start off. This is just now breaking. I don't know how many people remember Sinead O'Connor. She was the Irish singer that sang "Nothing Compared to You," that huge hit, I think, in the late '80s. I'm sorry, in the '90s, and I mean, it was a great anthem, and she was really, like an early social justice activist who was a singer coming from Ireland. You have to, Ireland folks, they know how to protest.
Oh, yes, they
and,
do.
and they know how to just keep fighting and fighting and fighting until their point gets across. She died today, unfortunately. She was 56. It comes 1 year after her son, Shane, committed suicide. She does leave behind three other children, which is, I'm so sorry to hear about this. If you don't know Sinead O'Connor or have heard her other albums, those of us who are watch Saturday Night Live remember when she sang "Nothing Compared to You" on Saturday Night Live, and she ended the song ripping the picture of the Pope, which was, shocking and oh my God. And she was blacklisted and people didn't want to work with her and how dare you. And
Yeah.
she was just ahead of her time in terms of activism. But eventually she still had a career. She still lived her life. And, sorry to say that she's gone. But
Yeah.
I would say you're going to have to break out and listen to "Nothing Compared to You" and, play her, and raise your fist in the air just for a minute while listening to it. But Sinead O'Connor is gone. And I wish her family the deepest sympathy and everything about that.
Yeah. And also, if you've never seen that Saturday Night Live clip, I encourage you to watch it. Just out of anything, just to see the impact that it had and just looking like she was ahead of her time because it was like I think it was like that took place like 9 years before Pope John Paul the second said there was sexual abuse in the church. So anything
Yes.
just to see history like
Yes.
that.
I mean, in fact, Ireland was the last to admit that there was sexual abuse going on in the church. So America was, I think, ahead of everybody to start looking into it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I remember watching the clip live. I saw that live when I was watching Saturday Night Live in the '90s. I was a
Mm.
huge fan, and I remember her singing it, and I was like, "Ooh, she did that! Oh no!" And then it just overnight, it just blew up.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, "Wow!" Just bits and pieces of what you have seen. I remember watching because I was a huge Saturday Night Live fan at that time. So,
Yeah.
and I like them pushing the effort, and she pushed the perspective, the world perspective on things. So again, she was ahead of her time. So I'm going to move on. Another history making moment was President Joe Biden did something extraordinary. He signed a proclamation to establish a monument in 2 states to commemorate Emmett Till and his mother, on what his mother did to bring about what bigotry is showing the world the results of bigotry. Emmett Till, and many people didn't watch the specials and the ABC special, and hearing about other things that occurred around Emmett Till. He was a 14-year-old Black teenager from Chicago who was murdered in Monee, Mississippi on August 20th, 1955, after being accused by a white woman of whistling at her. Later on, in fact, I think it was last year, early this year or last year, the woman passed, but she had admitted in a book that she lied.
Yep.
And how many Black men have been killed over a lie? Unfortunately, he was a 14-year-old boy, which was sad at that time. And President Biden spoke about the courage of his mother, Mamie, to do what she did to bring about his death, how the Black press, he lauded the Black press on making sure that the story was told, was presented, and that it was heard around the world. And the open casket funeral that she held for him, and then she spoke out and about his death and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see how these national monuments are going to be created and established and go from there. So and on top of that, the fact that he lauded the Black press says a lot about presidents don't laud the Black press as often as they should, because when everyone else is not covering something, we cover it, and we continue to cover situations that no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
So there is that.
And also just real quick, if you've never seen the movie Till, I highly recommend you see it, because I watched it like a couple months ago, because it focuses mostly on Mamie Till, but still it's a very, very good movie, very gripping story. So if you've never seen Till, go ahead and watch it if you can. If you can take it. It's hard to watch, but I recommend you definitely watch that movie.
Well, that's the reality of life. And that's actually, I forgot about the movie Till, but people don't want to see the truth about the results of bigotry or the results of slavery. Case in point, the story surrounding Emmett Till and his death and the work that his mother did. Well, it will be sanitized, and he will not be taught in Florida schools once, with the new law that the DeSantis got established in Florida regarding slavery and Black history. He's attempting to whitewash Black history. And he doesn't want the white children to feel poorly about themselves because of what the country has done. And I'm like, you know what?
So silly.
You're still doing it.
Yeah.
How are they going to feel poorly? You're still, you're not willing to recognize the behavior that caused the bigotry and the death and the brutality and everything else. And on top of that, just because you want to whitewash history does not mean that history is going to go away. Before Black history was incorporated into the public domain, HBCUs were keepers of our history.
Yeah.
And everyone was taught, and it continues to be taught around the country. So just because you all can't accept it does not mean it's not going to be told. So, because I remember I learned about Black history from my parents.
Oh yeah, me too.
Before it was incorporated into the school system. So it just means that parents are going to have to take it upon themselves to educate their children about where they come from and never forget.
Yeah.
So that being said, so another issue coming up is from sports, Bronny James, which he suffered a cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
He's only 18 years old.
I know, it's unbelievable.
but I know there are certain conditions that athletes, this does happen in athletes, and it's not caught until their bodies have this happen, which is kind of sad. They're not revealing too much information other than that he suffered during basketball practice at the University of Southern California. The 18-year-old was treated at the scene, taken to the hospital. He was in intensive care, but he's now in stable condition, and the family has asked for privacy. But I know, LeBron James and his wife were very, very worried parents.
Oh
You
yeah.
I'm sure LeBron has insisted his son stay clean and everything else. So, if you've never revealed symptoms before playing high school basketball, now you're in college basketball and this happens, you wonder what happens. But this is not the first time that a University of Southern California athlete has suffered a cardiac arrest. There was one last year. One of the top recruits suffered a cardiac arrest.
Oh really?
Yes, just a year ago. So either it's playing, who knows what's going on. So that's something to watch out for. And I would just say, parents, be careful with your kids playing athletes. Make sure they're being checked over extensively, because there are some heart conditions that are hidden until a certain time period.
Yeah.
So there is that. And then, Twitter has been around for a long time.
Yeah, since like what, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And now it's X.
Just X.
I don't know how to take that. I mean, so instead of doing a tweet, what is it, an X? Or is it, I heard someone was joking on television this morning saying, should it be X-rated, X-rated, not X-rated, but X posted, they were trying to figure out, what do you call the post now if it's not a tweet?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean,
Um,
I was on my Twitter account the other day, not realizing that he had changed it to X, and I saw the X. I thought it was, okay, what new feature is this? I didn't realize it was the name. So Elon Musk, he's brilliant and wishy-washy at the same time.
yeah, I mean, to be fair though, it's like plenty of companies, change their name. So, so there's that. But, it's like Twitter is so entrenched into pop culture and just life in general that, now changing his name to just X, it just seems like a dumb move. It really does. It just seems like a dumb
Basically,
move.
that dumb move, where he was a $10 billion business, now became a $4 billion business.
Yeah.
He wiped out what is it called? Its worth, economic worth. And just doing that, I was like, ooh, that's not good. He should have kept Twitter. I'm aghast. I mean, I still go on there and I was like, okay.
Well, I think and I read something, what basically Elon wants to do with Twitter is to make it like there's this China app called like WeChat, and it's basically an app that can like do anything. So I think that's what his goal is, but I just don't think that can happen.
But Twitter
If
wasn't
I'm being
shaped.
happen.
No, because Twitter wasn't shaped to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about how we all were now talking about brand and culture and what we do, but if you have something that is entrenched into the culture or society in itself, it's part of the basic things that we do of social media. We Facebook, we Instagram, we tweet, we Snapchat, though Snapchat's probably going away.
Yeah.
Everything, when we talk about expressing and talking, you don't mess with what works. And now, if you don't say, well, I'm tweeting, well, no, you're what, X-raying?
X-ray. But
You're exiting, or you're,
yeah, but
existing, or you
but
just don't
yeah,
know.
but
So,
I do find it interesting that that's what Elon's trying to do with it, because America really doesn't have like a super app like WeChat. Because basically, if you don't know WeChat, it's a Chinese app, and basically it can do anything. You can text message, voice message, broadcast, video conference, play video games, mobile payments, share photos, all that stuff. And America really doesn't have any kind of app like that. But I just think Twitter, well, I'm sorry, X, I don't think that's the right app to do that, like you said.
no, because I mean, it's I understand WeChat is, it's like WhatsApp.
Yeah,
Really think
exactly.
WhatsApp is more prone for that
Yeah,
than Twitter. Twitter was one specific information channel.
yeah,
And I mean, yes, you can direct message, you can retweet, you can do all this stuff with it. But in terms of payment and everything else, that's too much for that.
yeah,
I think they lost their chance to be that, because that should have been done as Thread is now, where Thread is starting out as where Twitter was when it first was introduced to America. And I think Thread has a greater chance of doing what Elon Musk wants to do, because
yeah,
it's so new and everyone's still trying to figure it out, that it can go that way. Because the culture even though it's based off of Instagram, it can be established, it can be added to it and do it.
yeah,
And they can do it a lot faster than this.
yeah. And by the way, folks, Threads has hit at least 150 million downloads by now. So it's
I gotta
like,
get back on. I gotta get back on and start using my Thread account, because
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
so new that I need to get in the habit of, when I, Twitter, I got Thread, I got Instagram,
yeah.
just everything. So
Exactly. And also, folks, real quick, we are on Threads. Just wanted to let you
yes.
guys know that it's Cincy Herald. We're on Threads. Go ahead and follow us. We'll post all the news on there and everything we can.
Well, I mean, and I think Thread is, like I said, Thread is so new that they can make it anything they want.
Yeah.
And which is kind of sad, because now X is trying to get back what they lost, and it was like, it's too late. You lost it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the classified section for newspapers. When Yahoo Classified was first established, it took the business like that from
Right.
newspapers. And even though newspapers tried to grab it back, it's too late. If you
Yeah.
don't watch what was in your house and it's taken away by something else, you're going to implode. And I think this is the tail end. This is the beginning of the end of X. So we'll see how he revamps that and comes back.
Yeah.
So another is Carlee Russell. And it's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
sad. You know, I've seen well, if anyone is not familiar with Carlee Russell, she is the young woman who claimed that she saw a toddler walking along a highway. She called 911, and then she disappeared, allegedly kidnapped. And then she came home, and they was traumatized and everything else. Then come to find out that it actually didn't happen. And, I don't know what one thinks when trying to do that, or what you're trying to prove, or you want your 15 minutes of fame. I don't know. But as a Black person, you can't do this.
No.
Like I said, I was at a leadership conference when this news first broke, and there were a number of women who knew her and were appalled and upset, and they were sharing her story to make sure that the word was getting out. Look for her. If you see her, so many people were behind her when this first broke. Now it's the impact of this is she lied. And I'm like, okay, the next person who cries wolf, is she going to be believed?
Exactly.
Or are they going to be ignored? I mean, we're already ignored on so many levels. We already have missing children, missing women who are not being looked for, as or gain national exposure as other people do. And her story was unique and everything, but it was fraud. She
Yeah.
committed fraud in a very public way, and she abused the use of 911. She had people frightened. She had her family frightened.
Yeah.
Her ex-boyfriend was supporting her, and now they're like, people fundraised for her, and now it's, you lied. It's her reputation is going to, she's going to, the ramifications of this, no one will trust her.
Yeah.
No one will stand behind her.
Hmm.
Her family probably will, even though they're disgusted with her.
Yeah.
Um, and she probably needs help, or this was a cry for help of a, who knows. I'm not even going to speculate
I
because,
mean, it really is sad because it's basically like the Jussie Smollett system. I mean, the Jussie Smollett situation
oh
all over
yes,
again. So it's just it's going to be harder for for if a person of color is lost, are the cops going to take it as seriously? Is this it's just going to be like the Carlee Russell situation all over again? It's just and that's just going to have a really long lasting impact. And I don't think she realizes how much damage she's inflicted on about this.
yeah, because I mean, if you think about this, even the police were actively looking for her. I mean, I commend the police for, taking it seriously, investigating. They were really behind investigating the situation because it was unusual. And you have this story going on, and comparative was the Circleville, Ohio story, where the trucker, the black guy who was driving the truck,
Hmm.
and because the police were trying to do a traffic stop, he refused to stop, and he finally did, and he had his hands up in the air, and the Circleville police had a canine dog as part of the whole police force going after him. And his hands up, and the troopers, Ohio troopers, were telling him, just walk to us, just walk to us, but at the same time warning Circleville police, don't release the dog, don't release the dog. What they do, they release the dog.
Yeah.
That issue, she even trounced that issue, how big this story was. And this is an unarmed black man who just chose not to stop his truck to the police, which was dumb for his part.
Yeah.
I'm not even, for what happened to him was a tragedy, and it shouldn't have happened. And that police officer should never release that dog on him. But that tells you about where his thinking was. But at the same time, dumb stuff results in negative. For negative activity, you have a negative reaction.
Yeah.
And this is two cases of, I can't believe they did that, but that shouldn't have happened, but I can't believe they did that. But at the same time, being stupid is not stuck to one color or one race.
Yep, that's true.
So, I mean, and as we integrate more of activities and thinkings and things like that, the more we're going to see what was usually stated where, the black community say, oh, that's just them. It's no longer just them doing stuff. So, it's just kind of sad, but all I can say is let's pray for her that she gets the help she needs. She learns from this lesson, and eventually she will move onto the right path for her, for her life. She may have to change her name. So,
Probably. Yeah.
so, but it's unfortunate. And last but not least, I don't know what to say. Kelly Prather.
Oh yeah.
And I know Kelly. And Kelly is a nice woman. I've seen her goals in life is that she wanted to do good for the community. She is as like any entrepreneur, she's a hustler. She knows how to run she was running a business, she was doing this, that, and everything. She ran for the US Senate. She ran for mayor. Unfortunately, she applied for PPP loans during the COVID pandemic, and she invented bank fraud.
Yeah, you don't do that.
You don't do that. I mean, she applied for 6 paycheck protection program loans as part of the pandemic relief, and she asked for 1.2 million, and she only got $19,800. And of that money that she spent it on, she didn't spend it on her businesses. She spent it on personal stuff, which is not good.
No.
And which is unfortunate. She's an ex-mayoral candidate for the city of Cincinnati. Supposedly, her nephew, who is autistic but has a degree in business management, supposedly did this application on her behalf. You
Mm,
just don't know who to believe. And unfortunately, she was convicted, and
yeah.
she's now in the custody of U.S. Marshals and awaiting sentencing.
Yeah.
And she could get up to 20 years for each fraud.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, she's convicted of 6 fraud charges. She could get up to 30 years in prison.
That's sad.
It is
Um,
sad.
and I don't want to. I'm trying not to laugh, but like when I was reading the article, I heard like some of the non-business expenses she did it that she used the money was at Kroger's, like Staples and Krispy Kreme, and I just chuckled a little bit, but I know I shouldn't be laughing, but I just found that to be a little funny.
Well, I was kind of like when they said non-business expensive, like Staples. I was like, well, but Staples is business unless what she bought was not a
Yeah,
business item in Staples.
exactly,
I was like,
exactly.
you know, I just don't know. I mean, it's you have to be careful when you're using or asking for other people's money. You have to adhere to the rules,
Yeah.
because if you're going to do wrong, it's going to come back to bite you.
Oh
It
yeah.
may take a little while, but what you do in secret is going to come to light. It's just a shame, and it's unfortunate because when Kelly first got on the political scene, she meant well, and she was doing good, and she was speaking out on the issues that affected the Black community, and she was calling the politicians out and asking the questions and things like that. But when you are desperate, when you own a business, you own a business, and you have to take the good with the bad and prepare for that. I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but you don't do this.
Yeah, exactly.
um it's unfortunate. And again, all I can ask is the praying community of the city of Cincinnati, pray for Kelly. I hope the judge, well, he's going to sentence her. She's going to do some federal time, but I hope it's not too deep.
Yeah.
But you just never know.
Yep.
It is unfortunate for when a good person does bad. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that is all the chocolate news I have for today.
Okay. Well, thanks, Andrea. And once again, I want to thank you for all the good chocolate news. It's always greatly appreciated.
Well, I mean, it's I'm a news junkie. I'm gonna look out and see what's going on, whether it's national or local. Locally, truth is stranger than fiction, and we have a lot of truth out there that is like you need your popcorn to sit down and like what? It's unbelievable what happened. So, I didn't get down to the what we didn't talk about before we end.
Oh, what?
Black Tech Week, the Black Hall of
Oh,
Fame,
yeah, that's
and the
right.
music festival. You know what? I totally.
Well, I think we talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but we didn't really get deep into it, just because it just happened this past weekend.
It happened this past week, but I think that I want to go down and actually walk the Black Music Hall of Fame. I want to walk through and look at. I've seen the pictures, especially for Bootsy, where he has a star on the Walk of Fame, and I want to see the interactive components and things like that. And I think that, everyone got to see the Black digital power this weekend in the city of Cincinnati, especially those who flew in for Black Tech Week. And I commend the Lightship Foundation for marrying their event with the music festival,
Yep.
because it makes this week going into the music festival a little bit more interesting for one of it was $109 million entity. Now the comparison I mean, with the addition of Black Tech Week, and then and then the 513 event
Oh
as
yeah.
well. Cincinnati Vibe was going on down on Fountain Square, and that was packed too for everyone who couldn't get into the stadium. They were down at Fountain Square, and they were jamming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon. They had stuff going on. It was a fantastic weekend, and I think the economic impact. It'll be interesting to hear the report of who's tracking this, how much more money is being brought into the economy because of those 3 events going on at the same time. I think it's just fascinating. It really
Yeah.
is.
Very
Um,
fascinating.
yes, and I think Issa Rae, I didn't hear what she had to say, but from what I heard, the people who sat in her session thought it was wonderful. And she really knows her stuff about being an entrepreneur in this digital age,
Right.
and how she is doing the deals, making it work, and creating content that is grabbing everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Um, and I think she also spoke about not just creating content in the digital space, but find your niche and market it.
Yep.
And I think that is, it's hard to, everyone has a niche,
Mm-hmm.
and to make money of that niche is difficult. But once you establish it and you get the support and the subscription, you can run with that. And I think, that at the Cincinnati Herald, that's what everyone, you're seeing all the changes that we're doing. And, all of the changes that are going on in the world in this digital space, it's a whole new reality. Because remember the meeting that we had where we talked about the different devices that we could listen to music?
Yeah.
Now, the only device that everyone has is either TuneIn, iHeart, Sirius Radio, Spotify,
Yeah. Apple
um,
Podcasts. Yeah.
Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
If you think of Castbox,
Mm-hmm.
or Spreaker,
Yeah.
if you think about all those, everyone else who grew up within the 20th century went from radio, record player, Walkman, tape, CD, MP3,
CDs.
CDs. I mean, if you think about it, I have all of that technology. I still got albums. I need to go buy a stereo so I can play the albums, because some of that music is not even on a CD.
Oh yeah. Well, I was cleaning out my parents' attic and I found like a whole bunch of vinyl records. So it's like one day, yeah, I definitely gotta get a record player and listen to them because some really good music from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not making on the
And,
Spotify and
and
Spreaker. I mean,
they're not.
there's a lot of talent out there, and a lot of what they now call old school music that's not being played on all of these, like if you have Sirius Radio, The Groove, or Old
Hmm.
School, or
Right.
Watercolors and things like that. You just, it's unbelievable. There's a lot of stuff that in the past that needs to be brought to light again,
Oh
because
yeah.
people would appreciate it. Because if you notice, they're not sampling hip hop, they're sampling the old stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that says something too, how hip hop music is evolving again. But also, what's also interesting is how country music is evolving, and how it's becoming more and more country music stars are becoming people of color. And I was in the gas station the other day, and you know how they have the radio systems, I shouldn't say radio, but the music players that you can carry on your shoulder or crossbody.
Yeah.
And one person was playing their radio or their music box, and it was country music,
Mm.
and it was
Interesting.
black. They were a black person playing country
Okay.
music. And I
Okay.
was like, okay,
All
all right.
right. All
I
right.
mean, and there are a few country music people that I do listen to. Not a lot, but I mean, Darius Rucker,
Hmm.
he's my number one guy. He is a country boy like you would not believe. And, but I still know him as Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh yeah.
But I have 3 of his albums where he's singing country music. And I've gone to his concert when he was here. I think he's coming back this year too. But anyway, But I'm just saying is that how the more partisan certain politicians want the world to be, how integrated our worlds actually are.
Right.
And I think everyone needs to take a minute and look at the divides and look at how we're not so much divided at all. We're really truly integrated in many, many ways. And you know what? That's a show that we need to do.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Let me
That's
write this
sound
down.
yeah, it does
Okay.
sound like a good idea.
Okay. So
Okay.
now that is the chocolate news for now.
All right. Well, thanks folks for listening. And you can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Stats newsletter, or in our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. In addition, the Cincinnati Herald is now accepting applications for an advertising representative. So please call or text our publisher, Walter White, at 513-680-7076 for more information. And speaking of technology, if you frequent Newsbreak or Smart News, there's like a black version for that. It's called Hayti. That's Hayti, and it's an app. It's available for Android and at the Apple Store. It's specifically for Black news and podcasts, and our news stories are on there, and our podcast is on there too. So if you're looking for Black news in particular, maybe give that app a download and have fun with it. I like the app. I think it was pretty good.
Oh, it is. I mean, I got it too on my phone, and it's amazing what's on there.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So, and again, I'm a news junkie.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and
definitely. But yeah,
especially because you know what's coming up soon.
what?
It's almost Black college football season.
Oh yeah. All right.
I
Okay, that's
can't
what I'm
wait
talking
because
about.
I want to see who's going to do what.
Oh
So,
yeah. No, most definitely. All right. Well, I'm John Alexander Reese,
and I'm Andrea Carter.
and have a good day.